Chapter 9. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The Keystone on the River. Where the Susquehanna River bends broad and steady between wooded ridges, Harrisburg stands as a capital shaped by water, transportation, war, industry, and public memory. Its story belongs to the river first. Before stone domes and legislative chambers rose above the city, this was a crossing place, a trading place, and a natural route through the interior of Pennsylvania. Harrisburg's importance did not come from size alone. It came from position. The city sits where roads, canals, rail lines, and political power all learn to meet, making it one of the most important inland capitals in the American story. Long before European settlement, the Susquehanna Valley was part of a native world tied to river travel, hunting, fishing, planting, and trade. The Susquehannock people, whose name remains attached to the river, once held great influence in this region. Later, native communities and travelers continued to use the valley as a corridor between the Chesapeake Bay, the interior forests, and the northern lands. The river was not simply scenery, it was a highway and a source of life. To understand Harrisburg clearly, the story has to start with the people who knew the land before colonial surveyors gave it new legal boundaries. European settlement grew during the 18th century, when traders and farmers moved west from older Pennsylvania towns. John Harris Sr., an English trader, settled near this stretch of the Susquehanna around 1719 and established a ferry crossing that became vital to movement across the river. The ferry connected people, wagons, livestock, and goods moving between eastern Pennsylvania and the frontier. Harris traded with native peoples, served travelers, and helped create the beginnings of a permanent settlement. His son, John Harris Jr., later laid out a town in 1785, naming it Harrisburg. In those years, the place was still close to the edge of settlement, but its location already pointed toward a larger future. The American Revolution and the years that followed gave the town new meaning. Pennsylvania had been founded by William Penn on ideals of ordered settlement and religious tolerance. But by the late 18th century, the state was expanding far beyond its eastern counties. Farmers, merchants, veterans, and migrants were moving west, and government needed to pay attention to the interior. Harrisburg became a borough in 1791, the same year the nation was still organizing itself under the new Constitution. Its streets, courthouse, taverns, and river landings served a population that looked both east toward Philadelphia and west toward the mountains. The decision to move Pennsylvania's capital from Lancaster to Harrisburg in 1812 changed the town permanently. Philadelphia had served earlier, then Lancaster, but Harrisburg offered a more central location for a state whose population and political weight were shifting inland. The move was practical and symbolic. A capital on the Susquehanna could speak to the farming counties, river towns, mountain settlements, and western communities that were becoming essential to Pennsylvania's identity. It also placed government away from the coast and closer to the state's geographic heart. Harrisburg became the public center of a commonwealth that was no longer defined by one city alone. The first purpose-built state capitol in Harrisburg was completed in 1822. It stood on high ground above the river and gave Pennsylvania's government a permanent home in its new capital. The building was dignified, but not as grand as the capital that would come later. Around it, Harrisburg grew as lawmakers, lawyers, clerks, printers, hotel keepers, and citizens arrived for legislative sessions. Government brought business. Petitions, newspapers, speeches, and political arguments moved through the town. The capital became a place where ordinary Pennsylvania concerns, roads, schools, canals, banks, taxes, farms, and public works were turned into law. Transportation made Harrisburg even more important. The Pennsylvania Canal System reached the city in the 1830s, linking the Susquehanna with broader routes of trade. Canal boats carried grain, coal, lumber, iron, and manufactured goods, and the riverfront became a busy working landscape. Railroads followed, strengthening Harrisburg's role as a transportation hub. The Harrisburg and Lancaster Railroad opened connections eastward, and later lines tied the city to Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and the coal regions. By the middle of the 19th century, Harrisburg stood at the center of a network that moved both goods and people. Its political role and transportation role reinforced one another. Industry grew from that same geography. Ironworks, machine shops, foundries, rail yards, and warehouses shaped the city's economy. The nearby furnaces and rolling mills of the region helped make Pennsylvania an industrial power, while Harrisburg supplied labor, administration, and transportation. Immigrants and migrants came for work, adding new churches, neighborhoods, languages, and traditions. The capital was not only a place of legislators and public ceremonies, it was a working city of laborers, printers, shopkeepers, railroad men, domestic workers, teachers, and families who lived close to the noise and opportunity of a changing century. The Civil War placed Harrisburg in a position of national urgency. As the capital of a major Union state and a railroad center, it became a critical organizing point for troops and supplies. Camp Curtin, established on the northern edge of the city in 1861, became one of the largest Union training camps of the war. Tens of thousands of soldiers passed through it before marching south or west. In 1863, during the Gettysburg Campaign, Confederate forces moved through the Cumberland Valley and threatened Harrisburg. Defensive earthworks were prepared, bridges were guarded, and fear spread through the capital. The danger passed after Gettysburg, but the memory remained. Harrisburg had stood close to one of the war's turning points. After the war, Harrisburg continued to expand. The riverfront, rail yards, factories, and government offices shaped daily life. In the late 19th century, public reformers also worked to improve the city's appearance and health. The City Beautiful movement influenced Harrisburg through better parks, paved streets, improved water systems, and public planning. These changes mattered because industrial growth had brought pollution, crowding, and uneven living conditions. Civic leaders wanted the capital to look and function like a place worthy of the Commonwealth it served. The effort did not solve every problem, but it reshaped the city's public spaces and strengthened its identity as a capital. Disaster struck on February 2nd, 1897, when fire destroyed the old Capitol building. The loss was more than architectural. It was a blow to the shared memory of the state. Pennsylvania first replaced it with a building that many considered too plain and unfinished, then committed to a grander design. Architect Joseph Miller Houston created the present Pennsylvania State Capitol, built between 1902 and 1906. When it was dedicated, President Theodore Roosevelt famously praised its beauty. The building's green dome, inspired by St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, rose above Harrisburg as a new symbol of state power, ambition, and artistic confidence. The present Capitol is one of the great public buildings in America. Its exterior gives Harrisburg a commanding skyline, but its interior carries much of its meaning. Murals, mosaics, stained glass, sculpture, and marble celebrate Pennsylvania's labor, natural resources, history, and civic ideals. The building honors miners, farmers, workers, soldiers, families, and lawmakers, reminding visitors that government is built from the lives of many people. The Capitol complex later expanded, adding offices, museums, and public spaces that made Harrisburg not just the seat of lawmaking, but a center of historical memory. The Susquehanna remains the city's oldest witness. Floods have tested Harrisburg many times, reminding residents that the river is powerful as well as beautiful. Bridges have connected the capital to the West Shore, while City Island and the riverfront have become places of recreation and gathering. From across the water, the Capitol Dome rises above trees, churches, and office buildings, joining natural landscape and civic purpose in one view. The river that once carried canoes, ferries, canal boats, and industrial traffic now carries memory through the center of the city. In Harrisburg today, the past can still be felt in the landscape. The Capitol stands above the downtown streets. The State Museum and Archives preserve the wider story of Pennsylvania. Old neighborhoods, churches, rail lines, bridges, and river paths reveal the city's working past. Harrisburg has faced economic hardship, political controversy, flooding, and change. Yet it remains the place where the Commonwealth gathers to debate its future. Its history is not polished into a simple monument. It is practical, complicated, and alive. Harrisburg's importance has always come from its place at a crossing. Native paths, ferry routes, canals, railroads, armies, industries, and lawmakers all passed through this bend of the Susquehanna, giving the city a role larger than its size. The keystone on the river is more than a title. It is the story of a capital that helped hold a large and varied state together. From John Harris's ferry to the dome rising above the river, Harrisburg shows how geography can become government, how transportation can become influence, and how a modest river town can become the enduring civic heart of Pennsylvania.